Good evening, everyone. Tonight, for the invitation thought, I'd like to read a verse over in Matthew chapter 10, down in verse 32. Here it says, "Therefore, everyone who confesses me before men, I will also confess him before my Father who is in heaven. But whoever denies me before men, I will also deny him before my Father who is in heaven." I think I've heard it said before, we can kind of confess Christ in two different ways. Verbally with our mouth, and then how we conduct ourselves in our life on a day-to-day basis. And I have a feeling that a lot of times when we're here at church or we're surrounded by Christian brethren, it's really easy to confess Christ. We have no problem with that. We're comfortable, we're around people that are doing the same thing. It's a little easier to do that. But sometimes, maybe when we get out in the world, and preaching to myself as much as anyone, we get out into the world, kind of in the day-to-day life that we live, there are some things that we can do that we might be denying Christ and setting a bad example to those that we come in contact with. A few things that just come to my mind, we could be denying Christ with the kind of words that we're using, our speech, and different things like that. Telling dirty jokes, just doing things that we shouldn't do. How we treat other people. Are we treating people the way that we want to be treated, or are we always trying to put ourselves first? That's not necessarily what Christ teaches, so just something to watch out for too. And then, just how we conduct ourselves. There's a lot of that covers a lot of things. And then also, I feel like there's also opportunities where, we'll avoid doing something that we know we probably should have done. Know to do good and we don't do it. And I feel like that's we're bordering denying Christ when we do things like that. And then also I feel like this is one that I struggle with the most, is not speaking up when it's I meet someone who hasn't heard the gospel. There's an opportunity to teach them or show them the way, and instead I just stick my head in the sand like an ostrich and don't say a word. Sometimes that happens, and I feel like we got to watch out for that stuff. And I feel like it's easy while we're here and we're with brethren, but when we get out in the world, sometimes it might just, we get nervous or whatever the case may be in that situation. But let's just always be willing to confess that Christ is the Son of God, be willing to share that with others. And if there's anyone here tonight who's not a Christian, we would encourage you to obey the Lord tonight before it's too late. Hearing the Word, believing in it, repenting of your sins, confessing Jesus is the Son of God, being baptized for the remission of your sins, and then living faithfully from then on out. If there's anything we can do to help, please come as we stand and sing.